Module 2. Understanding Human Behavior in Emergencies. Psychological Responses to Crisis. Human behavior during maritime emergencies is influenced by specific psychological factors. When faced with danger, the body's stress response triggers elevated heart rate, increased adrenaline, and cortisol production, activating fight, confronting the threat, flight, escaping, or freeze, becoming immobile, reactions. These responses can reduce cognitive capacity by up to 80% in some individuals, impairing working memory and decision-making. Studies show that 15 to 25% of people remain calm during ship emergencies, 65% experience stunned confusion, and 10 to 15% exhibit severe anxiety or panic. Crew members trained in recognizing these responses can more effectively manage passenger behavior by using clear, simple directives and maintaining a calm presence. Common behavioral patterns. During ship emergencies, passengers typically follow predictable behavioral patterns. Approximately 10 to 15% may exhibit panic behaviors, including crying, shouting, or pushing to reach exits. About 20% may experience normalcy bias, denying the danger despite clear evidence. Nearly 30% initially freeze, becoming temporarily immobile for 3 to 5 critical minutes before responding to direction. Social bonds significantly influence evacuation behavior, with 70% of passengers attempting to reunite with family members before evacuating. Research from marine incidents shows that passengers primarily follow crew instructions when delivered confidently, highlighting the importance of authoritative communication during the critical 3 to 5 minute decision period following alarm activation. Module 2. Factors influencing human behavior during emergencies. Individual factors. Prior emergency experience. Example, military training, previous evacuations. Physical abilities. Mobility impairments, age-related limitations. Psychological resilience. Pre-existing anxiety disorders, stress tolerance. Cultural background, response to authority, collectivist versus individualist orientation. Social factors, family group dynamics, parents prioritizing children's safety, unwillingness to separate. Social influence, following crowd behavior, even toward inappropriate exits. Leadership presence, emergence of informal leaders among passengers. Communication clarity, multilingual announcements, visual instructions. Environmental factors, vessel condition, 15 degrees listing, causing difficulty walking, smoke obscuring exit signs. Time of day, nighttime emergencies with reduced visibility and passenger disorientation. Weather conditions, high seas affecting lifeboat launching, extreme temperatures. Evacuation route accessibility, blocked corridors, power failures affecting elevators. Emergency factors, type and severity, rapid flooding versus slow developing fire, immediate life threat. Warning time, sudden collision versus gradual system failure with early alerts. Perceived escape options, visible lifeboats increasing compliance with evacuation. Presence of injuries, visible casualties triggering stronger emotional responses. These factors interact to create complex behavioral patterns that crew must anticipate when managing passenger responses to emergencies. Module 2. Common passenger reactions in ship emergencies. Panic response. Heart rate exceeding 120 BPM with rapid, uncoordinated movements as passengers rush toward familiar exits rather than designated evacuation routes. Vocalization ranging from high-pitched screaming to repeated shouting of single phrases, often preventing comprehension of crew instructions over PA systems. Competitive behavior, including pushing at bottleneck points such as stairwells and muster stations, increasing fall risks on moving listing decks. Tunnel vision, limiting peripheral awareness to approximately 15 degrees field of view, causing passengers to miss visible emergency signage and crew directions. Freeze response, parasympathetic nervous system triggering bradycardia, slowed heart rate, and reduced respiration, resulting in passengers remaining seated or standing immobile despite alarms. Cognitive processing reduced by up to 80%, rendering complex muster drill instructions incomprehensible and requiring simple 1-2-step commands. Dissociative state, where passengers appear calm but have 30 to 60-second delayed reactions to direct questions from crew members. Fixed gaze behavior with limited eye movement and reduced blink rate, requiring physical touch on the upper arm or shoulder to break the trance-like state. Denial response. Normalcy bias, causing passengers to interpret initial emergency cues, listing up to 5 degrees, smoke alarm signals, as non-threatening, particularly common in guests with limited sea experience. Displacement activities, including continued dining, photography, or returning to cabins to pack valuables despite general emergency signal 7 short, 1 long. Threshold effect, requiring 2 to 3 direct crew interventions before acknowledging emergency severity, particularly problematic in multi-deck vessels. Time-consuming gathering of unnecessary belongings, averaging 4 to 6 minutes per cabin, creating critical delays in reaching assembly stations within SOLAS-mandated timeframes. Leadership response, emergence of informal leaders, typically 2 to 5% of passengers, with recognizable behaviors including squared posture, measured speaking pace, and deliberate eye contact. Direct support actions such as organizing family groups at muster stations, demonstrating proper life jacket donning, and creating human chains in smoke-filled passageways. Communication bridging, where passengers translate crew instructions into multiple languages, especially valuable on international routes with diverse passenger demographics. Corridor and stairwell flow management, including implementing alternating passage techniques at intersections to prevent dangerous crowd densities above 4 persons per square meter. Understanding these reaction patterns allows crew to adapt communication strategies and intervention techniques according to passenger needs. Nighttime emergencies typically produce 15 to 20% higher rates of freeze responses, while vessel listing beyond 10 degrees significantly increase. Module 2. Crowd dynamics on passenger vessels. Formation. Groups form based on family units, 70%, or cabin proximities, 30%, with social cohesion intensifying during emergencies. Passengers rarely separate from pre-established groups, even when instructed. Information sharing. Misinformation spreads at 3 to 5x the rate of official communications. 64% of passengers will trust fellow passengers over crew announcements, unless crew establishes authority through specific protocols. Movement patterns. Crowds move at 0 crop 0.5, 0 crop 7 crop meters per second in high-density situations, number 3 persons per square meter, with 40% speed reduction at stairwells. Counterflow movement reduces efficiency by 60 to 80% during uncontrolled evacuations. Leadership influence. Trained crew utilizing the Direct Inform Guide (DIG) protocol can increase evacuation efficiency by 75%. Positioning crew at 15 to 20 meter intervals along escape routes optimizes crowd management. Understanding crowd dynamics is essential for managing large groups of passengers during emergencies. Crowds on ships are confined by the vessel's structure, creating unique challenges. Pressure points typically occur at stairwells, particularly deck transitions 5 and 7. Assembly stations, averaging 4.2 persons per square meter during full evacuation. And embarkation areas. Crew must anticipate these bottlenecks and implement crowd density monitoring with intervention triggers at 3.5 persons per square meter to prevent dangerous compression forces exceeding 4,500 newtons. Module 2. Panic behavior and management. Understanding panic in maritime emergencies. Panic on passenger vessels is characterized by extreme fear that overwhelms rational thinking, potentially leading to dangerous behaviors like pushing, trampling, or jumping overboard. While dramatic media portrayals suggest widespread panic during ship emergencies, research shows true panic occurs in only 10 to 15% of maritime casualties. Most passengers initially experience confusion rather than immediate panic. Panic on vessels is more likely when passengers perceive immediate threat from fire, flooding, or listing, bottlenecked evacuation routes at stairwells or muster stations, rapidly increasing water levels or smoke conditions, absence of visible crew members providing direction, conflicting information about the severity of the emergency. Managing panic on passenger vessels. When confronted with panicking individuals or groups, vessel crew should use maritime command voice techniques, loud, clear, authoritative, with simple phrases like "move this way" or "follow me." Physically redirect panicking passengers away from crowded stairwells or assembly stations. Assign specific tasks, such as assisting elderly passengers or distributing life jackets. Demonstrate proper life jacket donning and evacuation procedures calmly. Maintain visible crew presence, especially at known pressure points like embarkation areas. Position crew at regular intervals along evacuation routes to provide guidance. Separate passengers showing signs of escalating panic, and assign them to crew members for individual assistance. Module 2. Special Needs Passengers Considerations. Mobility impairments. Passengers with mobility limitations require specialized evacuation chairs and dedicated two-person lift teams. Assign mobility assistants with distinctive orange vests to each deck. Pre-identify passengers needing assistance during muster drills. Establish alternative evacuation routes with maximum 15 degrees inclines where possible. Keep evacuation paths clear of minimum 92 centimeters width to accommodate standard wheelchairs. Visual or hearing impairments. For visually impaired passengers, use the sighted guide technique. Offer your elbow and walk half a step ahead. Install tactile directional indicators on evacuation routes. For hearing impaired passengers, distribute emergency notification vibrating devices during boarding and use internationally recognized hand signals. Ensure emergency strobe lights supplement all alarm systems. Assign crew members fluent in sign language when available. Children and elderly. Implement color-coded wristband system to track unaccompanied minors yellow and elderly requiring assistance blue. Establish dedicated family reunion points on each muster deck marked with green triangle symbols. Deploy child safety teams to monitor play areas immediately upon any alert. For elderly passengers, provide seating at 15-meter intervals along evacuation routes and assign crew members trained in geriatric care to assist those with cognitive impairments. Medical conditions. Maintain secure digital database of passengers requiring medication accessible to all medical staff. Stockpile portable oxygen concentrators, POCs, with 4-hour battery life at muster stations. Train designated crew in basic insulin administration and seizure response. Create medical priority evacuation category for passengers with time-sensitive conditions. Develop specific protocols for passengers with claustrophobia who may resist entering enclosed lifeboats. Module 2. Cultural differences in emergency response. Language barriers. Passengers from over 50 nationalities may not understand emergency instructions in the ship's primary language. Implement a tiered communication system with announcements in the 5 most common languages on board, typically English, Spanish, Mandarin, German, and Russian. Employ internationally recognized ISO 710 safety pictograms for evacuation routes. Station multilingual crew members wearing distinctive I Speak badges at strategic muster stations to assist with translation during emergencies. Authority perception. Cultural differences significantly affect response to crew instructions. Passengers from East Asian and Middle Eastern cultures typically show high deference to authority and will follow directions promptly. North American and Northern European passengers may question instructions or request additional information before complying. Southern European passengers may become more emotionally expressive during crises. Crews should adapt by providing clear rationales when giving instructions and maintaining a confident, calm demeanor regardless of passenger reactions. Group versus individual orientation. Collectivist cultures, East Asian, Latin American, Mediterranean, prioritize family unity and may refuse to evacuate without accounting for all family members, creating potential bottlenecks at muster stations. Individualistic cultures, North American, Northern European, may more readily follow instructions to proceed independently. Crews should implement family registration systems at muster stations, create designated family meeting points, and develop specific protocols for reuniting separated family members while maintaining evacuation efficiency. Crisis communication styles. Cultural variations in communication require adaptable crew responses. Middle Eastern and Latin cultures typically maintain closer physical proximity, 0.501 meter, and use more gestures during communication. East Asian passengers may avoid direct eye contact as a sign of respect. Northern European passengers typically prefer greater personal space, 1 to 1.5 meter, and more reserved communication. Train crew to recognize these differences and adjust their approach through regular cross-cultural emergency drills. Practice using the tell, show, guide method, where instructions are verbalized, demonstrated, then passengers are physically guided if necessary.